What's up, everybody? Good Monday morning. Hope you're doing well. And we are just about done. We've got a couple more positions to go through, and then we've got to sort through some of the stuff that slipped through the cracks. But the Seahawks draft primer only has a handful of videos left in it. And today we're going to be covering wide receiver, which should give you a decent idea of how deep we've already dug. We've gone through so many different positions that the Seahawks could reasonably address in the draft that we've gone all the way to wide receiver, a position that I don't think very many Seahawks fans are thinking that much about. As of right now, it seems pretty taken care of. If there's two positions on this team that are pretty well taken care of right now, it's safety and wide receiver. Now, safety, you can at least argue that we need backups. Wide receivers, I don't even know if you can say that. You've got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Now, Metcalf is in a little bit of flux because it's the last year of his rookie deal and he might want an extension, and we haven't given him one yet. We could trade him, and obviously if we did, that would change things dramatically in terms of how we look at this upcoming draft. But for the moment, he is here. And for the moment, it seems like we're going to keep him. That's my read. You've also got Tyler Lockett. Now, Lockett, we just gave him a ton of money, and I think it's already too late to get out from under that. So he's going to be here for a while, and he's still good. He's still good. He just had a really good year. He's still very, very productive. I'm not convinced he's going to have the same success without Wilson, but he's here regardless. He's the guy. So the starter positions are pretty well on lockdown. Those guys clearly worthy of being starters in the NFL. And even behind those guys, Dwayne Eskridge, you just spent a second-round pick on him. I know the rookie year didn't go well, but you can't abandon him yet. He's still got to be a big part of your plans as a slot receiver going into 2022. And then you've got Freddie Swain, who I'm not enamored with him the way some people are, but he does do some things fairly well. He is capable in some areas. And if he's your number 4 receiver, you can live with that. And I like some of our depth guys too, like Cade Johnson, like Aaron Fuller. So we're pretty good at receiver. But the reason why we need to talk about this for a little bit is because this team, this Seattle Seahawks team, is showing some interest in some wide receivers, despite what I just said. So it seems like this team wants to improve at receiver, even if the need is not obvious. Maybe they want to improve on the number 4 receiver spot. Maybe they want to do better than Swain. Maybe they've already kind of given up on Cade Johnson and Aaron Fuller ever being good in the NFL, and they're trying to pad out their number 5 receiver spot and practice squad. A lot of the guys they're looking at are going to be guys who will be lucky to get drafted, if we're being honest. So that's believable. Maybe they're trying to come up with a plan B in case somebody knocks their socks off on a Metcalf offer. If somebody comes out and is like, hey, we'll give you 2 first-rounders plus for Metcalf, and they're like, we have to say yes, then we want to be prepared to use one of those picks on a receiver. Somebody like say, Christian Watson, who we'll address in a moment here. But anyway, here are 6 guys at the receiver position in this draft. The first 3 are guys that the Seahawks have actually shown a lot of interest in because they've had them in for visits. The first 3 guys have been part of the top 30 visits of the Seahawks franchise over the recent weeks. The last 3 are guys that I personally gravitated towards during my scouting. So, we're going to start with Samori Toure, a not terribly well-known guy. He was very productive for Montana State for a few years and then transferred to Nebraska in 2021 and had a pretty decent year. He's a taller guy, 6'3", 193 pounds, so he's long and lean. 4.48 40, pretty good 40 time. 6.773 cone, 4.22 20-yard shuttle. Pretty good times, pretty good speed times. 2021, 46 catches, about 900 yards, 5 touchdowns, and he was frequently utilized on jet sweeps and end arounds. He had 8 rushes, 63 yards, and a touchdown. The only big board I found him on was the Draft Network. They have him in like the 5th round. I don't know if I think this guy has much of a chance to be drafted. I think the odds are a little against him there, but he may be a late round selection. So he's long and lean, like I said. He's a good athlete. His combination of size and athleticism is actually fairly impressive. He does a lot of good work from the slot. He runs a variety of different routes. He's not somebody who just runs the same route over and over. He's at his best running routes deep down the field. He's at his best being able to make plays down the field. He's got great hands, and he's pretty good with yards after the catch in terms of making people miss. Now, while he does have pretty good speed for his size, he's not super fast. 4.48 40 is passable, but it's not great. And when you're that lean, when you're 6'3 and 193 pounds, you're just not going to be able to play physically. So he gets out physicaled regularly, is what I'm trying to say. All right, so this next guy is somebody who has really rocketed up draft boards lately with good reason. This is a guy who, one of two things. Either A, the Seahawks are looking at him as a potential Metcalf replacement if they end up trading Metcalf, or B, they were hoping that he would fall to like the 4th or 5th round, and then in the last few weeks, suddenly everybody's got eyes on him, and everybody's like, oh, wow, this guy should be a second-round pick, and they're just like, shoot, can't get him now. North Dakota State, 6'5", so very tall, very big, 110 pounds almost, 4.36 40, very fast, 32.5-inch arms, 10.1-inch hands, so he's got all the measurables you could want. He had 3 pretty productive years in college, but his best year was 2021, 43 receptions, 800 yards, 7 touchdowns, and he did a lot of work running the ball as well. In fact, over the last 3 years at North Dakota State, he had almost 55 rushing attempts for almost 400 yards. So very frequently utilized as a rusher as well. And as you can see, every big board has him in the 2nd round, except for Walter Football. They have him in the 1st. PFF has him in the 3rd. So you are probably looking at a 2nd round pick. And I'll say this. In a vacuum, I would totally spend a 2nd round pick on Christian Watson because he's big and fast. And you don't see that kind of stuff that often. And he's got great agility scores as well. He's a very agile player. I would absolutely spend a 2nd round pick on him. Now, would I do it knowing that we have Lockett, Metcalf, Eskridge? It's tough to justify, but if we took him, I would be concerned, but I would have to admit, I like this player. He's an awesome athlete, great mix of size and speed. He's good at getting off press at the line of scrimmage, which is something that can sometimes get in the way of these taller receivers, I feel like. He's got an awesome catch radius. He can make yards after the catch, and he, at the very least, should be great as a returner. He can return kicks as well, which, at his size, I don't know how often you see that, but Christian Watson can return kicks. The issues with him, I didn't find a whole lot. Sometimes he has issues tracking the ball deep down the field, and in the NFL, he'll probably be utilized a lot as a deep threat because of his size and speed, so he's got to get better at that. And for a bigger guy, he's not necessarily somebody who's great at jump balls, going up to get the ball, and using his height to win battles against corners. So he's going to have to learn how to use his phenomenal size a little bit better. Christian Watson is he's the kind of guy that I look at when I look back at last year and wish we had traded or not, at least not extended Lockett. It would have opened the door to get a guy like him, but now you can't. Okay. Now we're going to take a look at a very, very small school guy, Derek Young. It's very hard to find anything on this guy. Lenoir-Rhyne was his college. Yes, it is a real college. Bigger guy, 6'2", 224 pounds. Nice 40 time, though, 4.44. 32.6-inch arms, 10.1-inch hands. I can only find 1 year of numbers for him. I think he has more, but he was playing at such obscure schools, it's hard to find. But in 2021, he had 25 catches for 303 yards and 4 touchdowns. I found him on 2 big boards, and they both had him going undrafted, so probably an undrafted guy. He's big, he's fast for his size, his long arms give him a big catch radius. He did good stuff on special teams, including the ability to return. He could be a kick returner or punt returner in the NFL. However, when you're playing at Lenoir-Rhyne, you're just not playing good competition, and it's not like he put up big numbers anyway, so Who knows what you can even derive from any of this? And at the end of the day, I just don't have a lot of information to go on when it comes to Derek Young. I know that we had him in for the top 30 visit. I know we're clearly interested, but hard for me to say that we definitely need to make sure we get this guy when he didn't even really produce big at a college like Lenore Rhine. Okay, now we are going on to three guys who I personally found compelling during my scouting process. First is Justin Ross of Clemson, one of Trevor Lawrence's favorite targets during college. Bigger guy, 6'4", 205 pounds. Very slow, though, 4.64 40. 32.1 inch arms, 9.6 inch hands. 3 reasonably productive years. Now, the production did drop with each year he played. I mean, 2018 was his best year, which you don't see that often. 46 catches for 1,000 yards, so he was a massive big play threat, over 20 yards a catch, 9 touchdowns. 2016, he made 20 more catches, but his yards dropped off significantly. 2020, he got hurt, and then 2021, he played again, and 514 yards, 3 touchdowns. Now, obviously, the circumstances at quarterback changed significantly, but this isn't exactly the arc of a guy who is going to be a huge success in the NFL, right? The big boards are all over the place. A few have him in the 3rd round, a few have him in the 4th, and Draft Network has him in the 5th. Probably a 4th round guy. What I like about him, though, is that he's big and he's good at finding the ball. He's a great leaper. He's somebody who, unlike Metcalf at times, really knows how to use his height to win battles against cornerbacks, to get up and take the ball away from a shorter player, which is something I was really hoping to find in this draft. He's got reliable hands. He can play the Y receiver role and the Z receiver role, so there's a little bit of versatility there. He's a solid route runner. He can run good routes, and he's got a good catch radius. His arms are not the longest, but his size helps him bring in balls that other receivers couldn't. The downsides with Justin Ross are that he is slow. 4.64 40 is a problem, and the injuries that he's had over his career probably haven't helped with that. He's a mediocre blocker, which is something that I think we often talk about with regards to a player like Metcalf, really adding value as a blocker. Justin Ross hasn't shown that yet. He does have a history of getting injured. He could stand to be more physical despite his size. There are some things he's going to have to get a little bit better at to use his height to his advantage, but I think he's most of the way there already, personally, in that regard. But Justin Ross would be somebody I would look at in the 4th. Next guy is Eric Ezukanman. This is another Texas Tech receiver, and I've said it before, I've always liked the Texas Tech receivers because they're always really, really appealing athletes. Ezukanman is not even one of the better ones in that regard in terms of his size. I remember last year you had TJ Vasher, who was like 6'6". This guy's 6'2", 209 pounds, 4.49 40, but that was not a recent time, so we don't know what it is now. 4.38 20-yard shuttle. 33.5 inch arms, so he's got long arms, 9.4 inch hands, so they're not the biggest hands, but this is a guy who has significantly better than average measurables as a receiver in terms of his height and athletic combination. He had 3 pretty productive years at Texas Tech here, 600 to 700 yards, 42 to 48 receptions. Started getting burn as a rusher in 2021, 10 carries for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns there. And the Draft Network and CBS are in pretty good synergy on him as a 5th round pick. ESPN has him more like in the 7th. So you're probably looking at something in that range. I would guess 5th, but it could easily be a 6th. Once you get down to that part of the draft, who knows? So what I like about him is that he's big. He's good at getting a clean release off the line of scrimmage and getting off of jams. He's got great footwork on slants. Very good at getting open on slants. He can blow by corners in a straight line. He's got enough straight line speed to be able to do that. He's very good at winning on contested catches, and he's got a big catch radius. And if you can get the ball in his hands, he's really good after the catch. He makes guys miss. He breaks tackles. He gives you that kind of stuff. The issues that Ezukanman might have are his lacking route tree. He doesn't run a ton of different routes. He's good at the routes he does run, but he doesn't run a ton. He needs to be able to find different speed gears to really blow past a defensive player, and his hands are not the best. Might be because they're somewhat small, but I like Ezukanmon quite a bit. Okay, last guy here, Trey Turner of the Virginia Tech Hokies. And I tended to gravitate towards bigger guys when I was trying to scout receivers because I wanted somebody who was a little bigger, somebody who could be like that red zone threat, that jump ball threat. But Trey Turner, despite not necessarily being that big, he is 6'1", which is maybe a little bigger than average. Still caught my attention for being fairly productive across 4 years at Virginia Tech, despite having pretty crappy quarterbacks. Only 184 pounds, 4.5140, 7.453 cone, 4.53 20-yard shuttle. Don't know how that got there. 30, barely 31-inch arms, so not great here. 8.5-inch hands. So the measurables are not necessarily up to snuff, but the production has been, especially if you take a look at some of these rushing numbers. He added a lot of value as a runner when he was at Virginia Tech. Over 400 yards over 4 years. A lot of action in that regard. Had at least 500 yards receiving all 4 years. And he has earned draftable grades from most of the big boards. They expect him to go in like the 7th. That's what I would expect as well. 7th round pick approximately. So what I can say about Trey Turner is he's produced pretty well despite bad quarterback play. He's pretty versatile in how he lines up and what kind of routes he runs. He's productive in all areas of the field. You can have him run shallow routes, intermediate routes, deep routes. He does all that stuff well. And he runs really good routes too. He's a good route runner. I'm not going to compare him to Cooper Kupp, but some of these things will make you think of Cooper Kupp. He's got a big stride, allows him to cover a lot of ground quickly. He's got good hands despite having tiny hands. He catches most things that hit him, and he plays with high awareness. Now, while he is a great route runner, I think he does need to add a few routes to his tree. I feel like he probably needs to pick up a little more variety there, but he's on his way. Because he's productive in all areas of the field, because the routes he runs are good, I think he'll get there, but it will take a little bit of time. He probably needs to get a little bit stronger, and he does need to do a little better getting off the release at the line of scrimmage. He needs to work on getting off press. Okay, so that is it for wide receivers in this draft. Those are 6 guys who are worth talking about right now for one reason or the other. Let me know what you guys think of these guys. Let me know who your favorite is. Tomorrow we're going to do kickers. And those guys can be a little hard to evaluate, but we're going to do the best we can. See you guys then. See you guys later today. There's going to be another video. Twitch tonight as well. See you guys then. Peace out. Go Hawks.